So just this week, I got some new film back from my lab, and I've got just a ton of film to scan. And I wanted to go over a bit of my process on how I scan my film, because over the years, I think I've made a lot of mistakes in scanning film, and I want to share kind of the things I've learned, how I've fixed those mistakes, and kind of the process I'm at now. So there's some DIY stuff involved here and how I made my setup, but then also a lot of the stuff can apply to anyone, no matter how you're scanning your film. I think there's just some good tricks I've learned that I'm not hearing a lot of people talk about when it comes to scanning your film. So a full process from getting your film back from your developer, from your lab, and from there, how you can get good results on your computer to post wherever you post your photos. So let's jump into it and I'll show you my scanning setup. This is my scanning setup. It is a Canon EOS R I have attached to this monstrosity of a rig. It's made out of a broken tripod that I salvaged the main neck out of, the main stock, that has this cool 90-degree articulation that it could do before. So you can do one of those moves and have your camera sticking straight up. But when you bring it down to 90 degrees, you have a perfect level photographing surface. So this takes kind of notes from, you'll see copy scanners and stuff that you can buy online that people use to do DSLR scanning. But those are gonna set you back at least $100, if not more, to get a good one. So I didn't want to spend that kind of money. So I took the tripod stock and I put it into a piece of wood. And I have a 1/4-20 screw going up into this because there's a screw mount at the bottom. And that lets me have this really sturdy structure. And then from there, I'll break down kind of all the other pieces that I use in a bit more detail. The camera I use is the Canon EOS R. And for the lens, I have a 50mm f1.4 FD lens. And I use an adapter from RF to EF and a series of extension tubes to convert the 50mm into a macro lens. To hold my film, I have a magnetic tray made by Lomography. They make these for 35 and 120 film, and these holders are designed to show the sprocket holes of your 35mm film, so you can photograph the entire negative. For my light source, I use a light box made by Kodak. This is the smallest size that they make, but if you need one that is larger, they also make those as well. And I have mine almost entirely taped off so that the only light getting to my camera is a light that's shining through my negative. This just cuts down on extra fogging and glare. I also have a little rocket dust blower that I use to clean my negatives and my light source, and a remote trigger that I use to make sure that I'm not shaking the camera when I'm scanning. And most importantly, I have seasons 1 and 2 of The Simpsons to raise the film up close enough to my lens. But if you don't have those, you can also substitute it for another show. Now all you need are your negatives and you can start scanning. So once you have all of this stuff put together, you can start scanning your film. It's pretty fast, pretty efficient. You can get through a lot of rolls of film pretty quickly. I can do a roll every 5 minutes just with this setup. So way faster than how it used to be when I was scanning with a tripod and trying to make everything level and perfect. So now that you got your photos, you can bring them into Lightroom and start messing around and developing your photos. I use Negative Lab Pro to make all my edits, and it's a really simple software. It costs about $100 to buy, but it is totally worth it if you are regularly developing and scanning your own film. It lets you have full control over all of your color adjustments, contrast, everything. All you have to do is import into Lightroom Classic, and from there you can open up Negative Lab Pro with Command N, and from there you can convert it either to black and white or color, and then it gives you a full range of options on all your exposure adjustments, color profiles, everything you could possibly want to edit your film. With this roll here, I'm just doing some quick black and white edits because it's kind of easier to get the hang of when you're just having to make light and contrast adjustments as opposed to color, because the color stuff can get pretty complicated and it can just take a lot more time when getting started and kind of can feel overwhelming. So that's why I'm just starting here at black and white. I know some people just want to take their film from scanning to posting it and try and do as little processing as possible. You can totally do that here, or for those of you who like to really edit your photos and get a specific look out of them, you have all the freedom to do that in this software as well. So here I'm just gonna make a couple extra adjustments outside of Negative Lab. I can use the little spot brushes to clean up any dust that I see in my negatives that I don't want there. Sometimes I'll leave dust in, sometimes it looks nice or it doesn't really detract from the image. Other times I might bring this into Photoshop, or I might just rescan it a second time, making sure that there's no hairs or dust on them, because sometimes a hair just gets in a place that you can't clean up with Photoshop. and you gotta just scan it again. And then from there, I can also grab some of my gradient adjustment tools and I can darken or lighten a spot. Here I'm gonna lighten this top corner of the image to make it blend a bit more with the rest of the shot. Yeah, and these ones turned out great. So now I can take these images, export them, and post them online. So this is my scanning process. It's a lot of fun. I love how involved all the steps are. I love that I get to hold my images. It's just a great challenge, and it's totally different from editing like a raw image from my DSLR. It's just a really, really cool experience with film. So this is how I do it. If you have more questions about film developing, film scanning, leave them down below. I'm happy to answer anything that I might not have touched on with this video, or if you have any other questions, I might be able to point you to some other resources for that. Before I go, I'll leave you with a couple more photos that came off of this roll, and I'll see you in the next video.